I've shared that there's an intergalactic space station on Jupiter. What more can you tell us about that?
Oh, that's like one of my favorite places that I've ever been. So a intergalactic trade commission of some kind is responsible for the construction, maintenance, and operation of the station, as well as similar stations like it around the galaxy. They're essentially a neutral ground meeting place so that any group, any species, any military representative, diplomatic representative who wants to meet with someone else from somewhere else can go there, have a conversation in a completely secure, safe place where, I don't know, weird things, squirrely things don't happen there.
It's a neutral zone?
It's a neutral zone. I was often, the reason I got to go on these missions was because I was the only pilot with infantry experience when I was on the Nautilus, and these ambassadorial teams would come through from the diplomatic corps, and they wanted a just-in-case guy. And I was never needed for anything just in case because it was a complete neutral zone. But you know how we are. We get paranoid and we like to have someone in a fight in case something happens. So I was basically brought along for a completely superfluous purpose that I never had to be there for that purpose. So I basically just got to sit there at these conversations. So the main room itself, actually, let me see if I can describe this.
Now, this is in space or on the planet itself?
It is orbiting Jupiter.
Okay.
So at quite a distance. I mean, Jupiter is a very large planet. So the goal is for the space station to be in a stable orbit, but not to be affected by the gravity pull, because Jupiter is a very large body. So there is a pretty good gravity pull on it. So it's a multi-level station, but the top level is this giant glass room that's almost a mile in diameter with floor-to-ceiling windows that are probably over 80 feet. Now, I call them windows, but I'm sure they're not made of silicone glass. They're probably made out of some kind of polycarbon or something like that. So you have this incredible view of Jupiter. The photographs do not do it justice. Being able to actually see it there in person, it's an absolutely gorgeous sight to behold.
How is it different than what we see from, on TV and the media?
The colors are richer. I mean, that's really the best thing I can say is that if I look at a photograph and I'm looking at the real thing is just much more vivid. The colors are much more pronounced, and you can see more detail than you can in a photograph. Even though a photograph looks amazing, the in-person experience is way more amazing than a photograph could ever be.
Now, inside, is it seamless? Is it all squared off? Is it curved?
It's a round room, so it's completely curved. The interior of the room is basically think of it as a giant flat room, like a giant open space that has hard light holograms that can produce conversational environments, as they call them. So a conversational environment can be as simple as a table with chairs on either side, or depending on any specific environmental needs that someone may need, you could have a table with chairs on one side and maybe even a large cube on the other side of the table with a different gaseous or even aqueous environment if the species in question has to function there. Beings come there in environment suits. They can teleoperate sometimes. So it's kept in an oxygen-rich environment because it turns out there are a lot of species that breathe oxygen. It's not universal, but there are a lot of them. So creates these hard light conversational environments all over the room. I've never been in that room when there were less than several hundred conversations going on at any given time. Remember, this is like a mile in diameter. It's absolutely huge. The smallest species that I have ever seen in this room having a conversation with someone was probably about that tall. Largest species I've ever seen in this room was closer to 60, 65 feet tall.
What do they look like?
Humanoid, actually. And I was told that they are actually a near genetic match to our own human biological genetic structure, except that their planet is much larger, and so their scale is different. But somehow there is this biogenetic link, which I've been informed can happen sort of for two reasons. One, there may be a common biological ancestor or a common biological manipulator of that species, since we know that there are advanced species that go around manipulating planets and genetics of species all over the place and leave their fingerprints behind all the time. It also turns out that for some unknown reason, the universe replicates success. So it's possible to find a biological species on a planet that's at the other end of the galaxy, or even in another galaxy, that's such a close match, but with no common ancestor whatsoever. And the only conclusion that our best scientists can come up with is that nature replicates successful patterns, and that somehow nature decided, well, there's a successful pattern way over here somewhere. We're just going to evolve that pattern here. I'm not sure if that's morphogenic fields or something else. It's not my area.